everyone, it's Justine, and today I'm going to be creating a birthday card as well as a Father's Day card using some stamps from the ton. I always struggle with masculine cards, and this stamp set is really just perfect, as well as several others that she has in her line, like the motorcycle one, for creating masculine cards, because that's what these are for. So we have a golf themed set here. You have, your greens with your sand traps, and you have the grass as well as some water to go into the background. You have everything to fill everything in. There's just some gorgeous layers. They're easy to lay up. You have some clouds if you want to decorate the sky. There's just so much content in these two stamps. And of course, they have some beautiful sentiments like "May the course be with you," "Happy Father's Day," "Congratulations," things like that, so you can use them for any occasion. There are also some coordinating dies that you may or may not want to pick up if you're interested in this set. You can cut out the different scenes, as well as there is this golf set here where you can layer up a golf ball as well as a tee, and you can use the O of the golf ball to fill in golf, and there's coordinating dies, of course, also. So I'm going to get started with my MISTI stamping tool here, and I'm going to be using my inks from the ton to create these stamps. Now, I'm going to start off by adding my magnet, and then I'm going to start off from the bottom and kind of work my way up. So I'm starting off with sort of like the rough sort of, you could think, or like some rough grass. And this is going to be the bottom of my card. And remember, you can pick and choose layers of this. So you could use this here to create a critter scene or something like that with some grass in the background. You don't need to use these for golf themed cards. So there's just many, many possibilities. So I'm going to be inking up using Soft Garden, and I am just adding a lot of ink on here. I find the mini inks are so juicy, and so when I stamp, you're going to notice that it doesn't stamp the prettiest, because my stamp pads are quite juicy at the moment. But I'm going to go over it a second time, and honestly, when they dry, they just even out perfectly, and they are really beautiful. And you'll see that in my photos when I show you that this is actually just fine. And also, it's considered to be sort of a rough grass area, so having that texture in there is also not a bad thing, but it is going to go away. All right, so that was the first layer of my stamp, and now I'm going to go into the second layer and line it up. It's super easy to line up because the top of the stamp everywhere lines up with this. So sometimes when you get stamps, it only lines up in certain areas, and then things start to get confusing, and that's not the case here. So I'm going to speed up the video here while I'm doing my stamping just to save some time, but you are going to see each step of the way. And I'm using the mini inks from the ton, which are packaged in packages of 4 so that they're perfect for layering. So I'll list those packages below as well. So now you can see that I have stamped in the rough area of the grass, and you can see that that's all finished. And I'm going to move on to the other layers of my card. So the next one I'm moving on to is the greens itself and the actual golf area. So I've inked that up as well in a little bit of a darker shade than I used below. And I'm going to go ahead now and just add each one of the layers. So the layers are very, very small detail lines for this one. So there's nothing too solid going over top. It's just adding some definition to the hills. And then you go ahead and you can add in the sand traps if you like. So you're just going to stamp those in like a light beige color. And there are texture that you could add to the sand traps as well with the other stamp set if you're interested. I'm going to make this the green here in the center, and I'm just stamping that with quite a light ink to tie in the bottom colors as well as differentiate from the area around it. Then there is some gorgeous water that you can add to your scene. It starts off with 3 layers for this one, adding just so much detail, and it looks so realistic when it's all finished. And as I mentioned, what's really awesome is that they really line up with a large portion of the area below it, so it's just so easy to get things done. So you can see just how perfect that is when it comes to life. And when I'm going ahead and adding all the little extra details that are associated with the card. Of course, I could have made a sky at this point as well, or I could have added those clouds and stamped in those layers, but I really felt like the card would have been too busy, so I just went with the mountains that go in the background and just left it at that to kind of end off the scene. Then I went ahead and added the little golfer as well as the flag here in some black ink or some dark gray, I believe I used. And then I added my final sentiment, which said, "May the course be with you." And I think that's just super clever. And I did go in later on in the video to add a Happy Father's Day on top of that because I thought that would be a perfect addition for a Father's Day card. Now remember, you can pick and choose how you want to do this and how it works. So I'm going to start off here by showing off the way you stamp the golf ball. Now it took me a couple of tries to get the coloring right on this. So originally when I had tried it, I was trying to use all 4 ink shades for this, and it was just being too dark for a golf ball. And then I went back and watched Effie's video that she did on Facebook on stamping this out, and she actually just uses the same shade. So the lightest gray that comes in her pack of gray inks. So any light gray ink that you have, and then you're just going to layer each darker part. So you'll see that the original stamp had a very dark part on the right hand side of it. And that second layer lines up perfectly with the area that starts to lighten up. So it is really easy to line up, and you can just see how realistic that looks when it's all said and done. All 4 layers, so you have 3 for the actual golf ball, and then you go ahead and add in the shadow. And as you can see from the stamp set, you can use it with love or golf by adding the golf ball in as the O. But what's also really nice is that the dies have that O as well, just in case you do want an O that is not the golf ball. So go ahead and cut this out using the coordinating die. You could also trim it with your scissors if you like. It's completely up to you. And I'm going to be running this through my Gemini die cutting machine, which I'll show you later on in the video. And I'm just going to peel this off. I use some tape to keep it in place, and you get a perfectly round golf ball when it's all said and done. So I'm going to stamp out my scene now. Now I'm going to speed you up once again just because you've seen this done already, but I do want to show you that it can be very different. So if you remember from the first card, I had sort of the rough grass happening at the bottom of the card, and you'll see that the water actually lines up perfectly as well, depending on how you put it. So when I did the water in the last one, for example, you'd notice that the flat line was up at the top, and the reason being is because that creates a horizon line. But if you flip over the stamp and turn it, it lines up perfectly for underneath the green of the golf course. And then you have the horizontal line on the bottom, so you can make some really fun borders. Okay, so I'm just going to finish stamping out my scene here, which you've seen already before. And this is going to go actually behind my big golf sentiment, so I'm not worried about it being perfect. But as I said, that ink where you see it's splotchy is going to sink into the paper. It just needs some time to really just settle in there. And once it sits for an hour, it's completely fine and it looks beautiful. So I'm running through my die cutting machine. I decided to cut out my scene mainly because I got inky fingers all over the bottom of my cardstock, and I just needed to start on a fresh surface. So I went ahead and just die cut that using the coordinating dies to cut out the scene. I also die cut the word golf out of black glitter paper as well as white paper, and I used the golf ball that I had stamped earlier to add that to my card. And you can see how dark the shadow was when I had originally did the golf ball and how light it's faded into now into the cardstock. Now that it's sat for a while, it doesn't look like that at all. So now I'm going to stamp some things to add to my scene. I'm going to stamp the water as well as the clouds. I didn't end up using the clouds, but I think it's worth showing you exactly what they look like because those could be used for any type of card or any type of scene. Really versatile, and again, don't have to use the golf idea at all. And so same with the water, you could use this water for any type of scene. It doesn't have to go with the golf course itself. So it's such a versatile set, and it really does create just some stunning realistic scenes. So we have the water, we have the clouds with all that depth in there, and I'm using just several layers. The clouds, I'm using the same concept as the golf ball where I'm just using the same ink pad so that it doesn't get too dark, but the water, I'm going ahead and just making it as dark as I would like. So you'll see that there's coordinating dies for all of these as well, and there's a coordinating die to cut out the top of the water so I can layer that up so nicely with my scene that I already created. So now it's time to just put everything together. I'm going ahead now with my tape runner, and I'm just going to slide the water underneath. I realized the letters actually weren't adhered very well onto the card, so I was able to lift them up. I hadn't pressed down too hard yet on them, and that's the nice thing with this tape runner. If you don't press hard right away, you'll be able to adjust. So now I've got all my letters on there. I've got my water scene. I've got both cards. I think they look stunning. I thought about adding the clouds here up top, but they just didn't look right. It's too busy of a scene, so I'm going to set those aside for maybe a future project or a future scene card that I'm doing. With any type of stamps really would be fine. So now I have May the Course Be With You. I'm also going to stamp Happy Birthday. So it's a busy month in June and July. It's my dad's birthday as well as Father's Day. So I figure I got the cards done already. So that's nice. And he's a big golf fan. So I think this is just perfect. And I'm going to go ahead now and just add these to some card bases. So I'm using some side folding cards here to add these to my card. I'm super excited to have the chance to have worked with these stamps. As soon as I saw them, I messaged Effie right away from the ton and was like, I need to use these stamps. These are super awesome. I'm not monetarily at all affiliated with the ton, so my opinions are true and honest opinion of the stamps. And I just absolutely love them and I love working with them. The layering is just so amazing and really just stunning, so well thought out, and they layer up so nicely. So I hope you enjoyed those 2 card ideas. Maybe you got some ideas for some of the men in your life. And I have some suggested videos below that you might enjoy, as well as the subscribe button if you're interested in subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day.